The Senate will come to order. Senator Kerr, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Madam President. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please take the roll?
Aguilar. Balmer, Baumgardner, Brophy, Cadman, Crowder, Grantham, Guzman, Harvey, Heath, Herpin, Hill, Hodge, John, Johnston, Jones, 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 Cavalis, Kerr, King, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Newell, Nicholson, Renfro, Rivera, Roberts, Scheffel, Schwartz, Stedman, Tocktrop, Todd, Ulibarri, Ulibarri,
Absent.
Zenzinger, Zenzinger, Madam President,
Here. With 34 present, 1 absent, 0 excused, the Senate has a quorum. Motion to adopt the journal, Senator Rivera.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I move that the reading of the journal from April 24th be dispensed with, and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Committee reports.
April 24th, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1156 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations.
Senate Services.
April 25th, 2014, correctly printed, Senate Bill 213, Senate Joint Resolution 38. Correctly engrossed, Senate Bills 3, 164, 176, 187, 188, and 194. Senate Joint Resolution 34. Correctly revised, House Bills 1144, 1162, 1199, 1266, 1287, 1335, 1344, and 1347.
Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 214 by Senators Lambert and Stedman and Representatives Giroux and May, concerning the studies requested in the Department of Personnel's response to the request for information in the fiscal year 2013-14 Annual General Appropriation Act, and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Appropriations.
House Bill 1351 by Representatives Nordberg and Ryden and Senators Todd and Herpin, concerning a requirement that the Colorado Office of Economic Development work to maintain the state's positive relationship with the United States Armed Forces.
State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1372 by Representatives Conte and McCann and Senator Marble, concerning unauthorized advertising for adoption purposes.
Judiciary.
House Concurrent Resolution 1002 by Representatives Court and Quorum and Senators Crowder and Schwartz, submitting to the registered electors of the state of Colorado an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning the petition signatures required for a citizen-initiated constitutional amendment, and in connection therewith requiring a portion of the petition signatures for the amendment be gathered from voters who reside in each Colorado congressional district, increasing the total number of petition signatures required for the amendment and excluding the repeal of an amendment passed prior to 2015 from these petition signature requirements.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. Please add Senator Ulibarri to the roll call. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we proceed out of order here, Senate Joint Resolution 28.
The motion is to proceed out of order to hear Senate Joint Resolution 28. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We'll proceed out of order to take up Senate Joint Resolution 28. Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Madam President. I move SJR 28 and ask for it to be read at length.
Okay. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title?
Senate Joint Resolution 28 by Senator Kerr and Representatives Kraft, Harp, and Giroux concerning celebration of Day Without Hate 2014.
They've moved it. Mr. Majors, would you please read it at length?
Whereas, in May 2007, following the tragedy at Virginia Tech University, a group of Stanley Lake High School students founded Day Without Hate, a student-led grassroots organization that promotes nonviolence, unity, and respect in schools. And whereas last year, more than 120,000 students in 250 schools, 10 universities, 14 states, and 4 countries set aside the last Friday of April to celebrate Day Without Hate, committing themselves to upholding the values of the organization and refusing to live in fear in their own schools. And whereas the Colorado community holds the responsibility to foster an environment of tolerance throughout our diverse community. And whereas by publicly acknowledging and celebrating Day Without Hate, the state of Colorado, in association with Day Without Hate, stands with our schools and our youth to promote a culture of nonviolence through embracing our differences to build a better and brighter future for all of our current and future residents. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 69th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, the members of the Colorado General Assembly, acknowledge the tireless work of Day Without Hate, recognize the necessity of promoting awareness of nonviolence, respect, and unity within our educational system, and proclaim April 25th, 2014 to be Day Without Hate in the state of Colorado. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to Governor John Hickenlooper, the Jefferson County Day Without Hate Committee, and the Colorado Congressional Delegation.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, colleagues, for acknowledging your support of Day Without Hate. Everyone should have found their T-shirt on their desk, and we encourage you to wear it throughout today. And thank you, Madam President, for relaxing the coat rule. You might have missed the President saying that the coat rule is relaxed if you wear your Day Without Hate shirt, so make sure you do that.
Senator Zenzinger.
It is a real pleasure to honor and recognize the hard work of the young people who really got this day started. It was students at Stanley Lake High School who had this idea, who said, we want to try and do something, make a statement to the world, and they did a remarkable job of demonstrating their passion and starting a movement, really. This movement spread throughout all of Jefferson County. It spread to all of Colorado, and in fact, last year, the Peace Jam organization recognized them as having a significant impact on the entire nation. So it is with a real honor and privilege that we recognize today the students that are here representing the Day Without Hate, 2 of which are from Stanley Lake High School in my district, 1 of which is from Ralston Valley High School in my district, as well as 2 students from Wheat Ridge High School. So we're very glad that you're here today, and thank you very much for demonstrating such a passion.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one last thing. The Day Without Hate is not complete without the concert at the end of the evening at the Jeffco Stadium, right at 6 and Kipling. Headlining that is the Flowbots. So if you can, well, if we are out of here tonight by 6 o'clock, we invite you to all come over for that. And I know that I'll be there with my kid, or my wife will be there with my kids in shirts. So thank you. We renew our motion for SJR 28.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Madam President. I didn't get my shirt on yet, but I did want to come in huge support of the Day Without Hate, folks, because this is our next generation, and if they are learning at this age how to facilitate, meditate, mediate, bring more peace to our world, and as the Flobots would say, fighting with tools, then we would be having a better world. So I'm so grateful for all of you, and welcome Peace Tammers.
Any other discussion on Senate Joint Resolution 28? Question before the body is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 28. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 28 is adopted. Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Any objection? There is. Are there any co-sponsors to Senate Joint Resolution 28? Senators Stedman, Kafalas, Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Nicholson, Todd, Madam President Pro Tem, need more coffee, Senators Newell, Hodge, John, Crowder, Roberts, King, Grantham, Jones, Schwartz, Johnston, Congressman Perlmutter, Senators Talktrop, Ulibarri. Please add the President. Senator Shuffle, Senator Herpin. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege for Senator Todd to recognize the Metropolitan State University basketball team members that are here.
The motion is whether to grant Senator Todd a moment of personal privilege out of order. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Senator Todd will grant a moment of personal privilege out of order.
Thank you, Madam President, and it is a great honor to me today to be able to honor Metropolitan State basketball team. Only 3 of the players could be with us today, but they are all 3 seniors. They held the highest record this year in the state of Colorado for collegiate Division I basketball, and it was 34-2, 32-2. Only lost 2 games in the whole season. So these 3 gentlemen are with us today, but I want to give special honor to Brandon Jefferson, and I have a tribute for him. So Brandon, give us a wave so they know who you are. The Senate of the Colorado Legislature, convened in the 2nd regular session of the 69th General Assembly, hereby extends heartiest congratulations and commendation to Brandon Jefferson, Metro State University. Metro State basketball guard Brandon Jefferson was recently named the National Association Basketball Coaches NCAA Division II Player of the Year for the 3rd time. Mr. Jefferson broke Metro State's single-season scoring record, averaging 21.6 points, totaling 734 points in 34 games. He also broke the season and career records for free throws. His leadership contributed to the Roadrunners on request of Senator Nancy Todd, given this 14th day of April 2014, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, Morgan Carroll, President of the Senate. So please join me in welcoming and congratulating these gentlemen who will continue on playing basketball, probably out of country. I think Brandon is planning on going to Italy. But they have had a remarkable impact on the success of a very talented collegiate program at Metropolitan State College of Denver University.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we proceed out of order to consider Senate Joint Memorial 3.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Senate will proceed out of order to consider Senate Joint Memorial 3. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Joint Memorial 3?
Senate Joint Memorial 3 by Senator Baumgartner and Representatives Quorum and Mitch Bush, memorializing former Senator Dave Wattenberg.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move Senate Joint Memorial 14003 and ask that it be read at length.
Mr. Majors, would you please read the memorial resolution at length?
Whereas, our respected former colleague Dave Wattenberg, a past member of the Colorado Senate and House of Representatives, departed this life on January 20th, 2014 at the age of 73. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was born April 4th, 1940 on his family's ranch in North Park, Colorado, to Elmer and Eva Wattenberg. And whereas Senator Wattenberg graduated from Jackson County High School in 1958 and attended college in Ames, Iowa for 2 years, returning to North Park to work on the ranch after his uncle Harry Wattenberg's death. And whereas Senator Wattenberg began his public service as an elected official by serving as a member of the North Park School District Board of Education for 12 years. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was elected first to the House of Representatives in 1982, where he served on the Education Committee and the Agriculture, Livestock, and Natural Resources Committee. And whereas in 1984, Senator Wattenberg was elected to represent Senate District 8 in the Senate, where he served for the next 16 years. And whereas, while a member of the Senate, Senator Wattenberg served for 8 years on the Transportation Committee, including 4 years as chair, served 9 years on the Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy Committee, including 2 years as chair, and served for 16 years on the Business Affairs and Labor Committee, including 2 years as vice chair and 8 years as chair. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was also a member of the Local Government Committee as well as a number of joint and interim committees. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was a consummate statesman, a man who stood by his beliefs but avoided overly partisan politics, and this willingness to find common ground despite political differences earned Senator Wattenberg the respect of his fellow legislators as well as lobbyists and reporters. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was well known for his sense of humor and his love of playing practical jokes on his fellow legislators. And whereas Senator Wattenberg sometimes went to great lengths to pull off a practical joke, such as dressing in a brightly colored silk shirt and skin-tight saddle pants to pop out of a large gift-wrapped box placed in the well of the House floor to surprise a fellow legislator on her birthday, and appearing on the Senate floor as Mildred, a properly attired woman complete with hat, gloves, stockings, and makeup, to play an April Fool's Day joke on a fellow senator. And whereas when that same fellow senator was later nominated to head an executive branch agency, Senator Wattenberg conducted the confirmation hearing with an Old West theme of Hang 'em High, having all of the committee members wear judicial robes as if conducting a trial, and having a hanging noose at the hearing just in case the senator was found not qualified to hold the office. And whereas, despite his exemplary career as a Colorado legislator, Senator Wattenberg considered himself first and foremost a rancher and a cowboy, involved both in the cattle business and promoting agriculture, and brought his deep and abiding respect for Colorado's land and its people to bear on his leadership style as a legislator. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was a lifelong member of the Colorado Cattlemen's Association, the North Park Stock Growers Association, and the North Park Pioneer Association. And whereas Senator Wattenberg was a longtime member of the National Western Association, who was involved with the National Western Stock Show, not only as a cattleman showcasing his own and others' cattle from North Park, but also as an active supporter through efforts such as arranging numerous guests to attend the stock show to learn about and appreciate the importance and contributions of the agricultural industry, and encouraging young persons' involvement in agriculture through raising donations from fellow legislators to purchase animals at the stock show's junior livestock auction. And whereas through his lifelong efforts, Senator Wattenberg proved himself to be a true ambassador for the National Western Stock Show and the agricultural industry in Colorado. And whereas Senator Wattenberg is remembered as a dedicated public servant who championed agriculture and ranching as integral parts of the Colorado economy and way of life, fighting fiercely for what he believed would improve and protect this state and its people he held so dear. And whereas it is fitting that we, the members of the 69th General Assembly, pay tribute to the dedicated service of Senator Dave Wattenberg and express our deep regret and sorrow occasioned by his death. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 69th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that in the death of Senator Dave Wattenberg, the people of the State of Colorado have lost a dedicated public servant and outstanding citizen, and that we, the members of the 69th General Assembly, do hereby extend our deep and heartfelt sympathy to the members of his family and pay tribute to a man who served his state well and faithfully. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint memorial be sent to Senator Wattenberg's wife, Mary Sharon Wells, his son, Ty Wattenberg, his wife's son, Guy Morgan Wells, and Joseph Bryan Wells, his wife's sister, Sarah Janet Freeman, the North Park Stock Growers Association, the National Western Association, the Colorado Farm Bureau, the North Park Pioneer Association, and the Colorado State Fair Board.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. Please be seated. And before we get started with this, Madam President, I do have an amendment.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read Amendment L001 to Senate Joint Memorial 3?
Amendment L001 to Senate Joint Memorial 3 by Senator Baumgartner. Amend gross memorial
Senator
page 2.
Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. The amendment just changes the years from 12, on page 2, from 12 to 14. Ask for an aye vote. I need to move it.
Would you please move it?
Thank you.
Senator Baumgartner.
I move Amendment L001 to Senate Joint Memorial 003.
Any discussion? Question is the adoption of L001. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, L001 is adopted. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, here we are again. As we look out, we can see Dave had tremendous friends and that thought a lot of him. Dave's grandfather, Ed, came to North Park in 1884. After working for the Bighorn Ranch for a couple of years, he homesteaded the west side of the park and then kept adding to his ranch. His uncle Harry Wattenberg and his grandmother, Hilda, lived about 200 yards away. So Dave always felt that he had two sets of parents. He once said, "When my folks got mad at me, I'd move down to the other place. And when they got tired of me, I'd move back." Worked out pretty well for me, he said. Dave married Jerry Lynn Barker in 1960. They had one child, Ty. Jerry passed away in 1986. Dave worked for others as well as himself. Being a rancher, understanding how things went and knowing that he had a great respect and love for the land and agriculture, he went to the National Western Stock Show almost every year. And while he was there, he worked with his neighbors and everybody else down in the pens in the cold. And if you've been down to the stock show, some years it's pretty cold out there, some years it's not, but a lot of the years it was very cold. And he worked out there with his friends and neighbors to showcase North Park cattle. He was a 32nd degree Mason. He competed in a semi-pro rodeo as a saddle bronc rider when he was young. Up to the last 10 years, he participated in ranch rodeo and won belt buckles. He also played in local theater, mostly comedies, with his neighbor. Dave played himself in Winn-Dixie commercials filled with other local cowboys. When Dick Soash ran for Congress in 1984, he talked Dave into running for Senate District 8, which covered 7 counties. In one campaign, Dave drove over 70,000 miles. He went to every town, every parade, every rodeo, every county fair for 18 years, close to 1 million miles in the time that he served. And he did that and never had an accident. Okay, don't laugh. Dave credited Soash to getting him started out right in the legislature. Soash was in the Senate when Dave got elected to the House. He called Dave one morning after and said, "Now we can do this one of two ways. We can play Democrats and Republicans, or we can work together and get something done." And they did. Dave said Dick Soash taught him a lot and was one of the best things that had ever happened to him. Dave was proud of two bills that he sponsored. One was liquor liability bill in 1986, which imposed sensible limits on the people could sue bars for. They felt it was a good bill. It's still in effect today. The other bill was affecting brand laws. That's also still in effect. Dave served in the Colorado House and Senate with some of Colorado's, as he said, finest legislators. He said most everybody got along really well. You might differ philosophically and fight all day, but you'd go over and have a drink that night. You were friends about it. Tomorrow you might need their vote. Dave said, seems now things are pretty much split down party lines. Dave was highly respected and admired by his fellow legislators, lobbyists, and reporters. It was said when Dave gave his word, you could take it to the bank. He was the kind of person who gave politicians a good name. He had his philosophy, but was among the least partisan to ever serve in the Colorado legislature. Rocky Mountain News political reporter John Sanko called Dave one of the good guys at the State House who fought hard for what he believed in, but didn't go overboard on partisan politics. Dave was responsible for the naming of Make My Day law. He opposed the law, but he used Clint Eastwood's quote to make it famous. Former U.S. Representative Scott McGinnis served with Dave in the Colorado legislature, and in an interview with C-SPAN in May of 2000, McGinnis called Dave probably the most popular legislator at that time in the General Assembly. Dave felt he had a really good life and had really good friends. Didn't matter which side of the aisle, he made friends wherever he went and whoever he talked to. He said, I've been lucky to have friends like I've had. I've been lucky in the circumstances that I've been put in. Lucky I didn't get caught a couple of times. Dave will be greatly grieved and missed by many of his friends. I want to tell you about the first time that I met Dave Wattenberg. I was working for the Department of Transportation at the time, and one of the duties was plowing snow. So the priority was take care of the 24-hour road first and then the secondary road second. And we did it a little different then than we do nowadays, because if you got done with the primary road, you went to the secondary road, didn't matter what time it was. So about 3 o'clock one morning, I'm heading up Highway 125 on my way to Walden. And I got up about mile marker 9, and there's a big hairpin curve there, and I rounded the curve, and here's this car off in the snowbank. So I got out, kind of pulled aside, got out, and here this guy gets out, and the words out of his mouth is, "Where the hell have you been?" And I said, "Well, sir, I'm sorry." I said, "This is a 6-to-6 road, and I'm really not supposed to be here now, but I got finished with my primary road, so I'm taking care of this because the mail has to get up here, and we have to get ahead of the mail driver." And he said, "Well, you need to get me out of here." And I said, "Well, our policy says we can't pull you out. We have to call you a tow truck." He said, "Well, you won't pull your own senator out?" I didn't know who he was. I said, "Well, you may not be my senator." And he said, "Well, you need to pull me out." So I told him, I said, "Well, if you'll hook it up to your car," and I said, "We're not supposed to do this, but I'll hook up to the plow and you hook up to your car, and I'll get you pulled out of here." So I went back and I got the chain and hooked up to the plow. Well, he took it and he'd hooked it on the bumper. Of course, the bumper was plastic. I said, "Well, sir, that's not gonna work." And I said, "You're gonna have to hook it up to something a little more substantial." So I went back, and we kept shovels on the truck to where, you know, if you need to throw sand or something to help or dig somebody out. And so when I come back, there Dave was, head first underneath the back end of that car with both hands, and he was just piling the snow out. And I said, well, I've got a shovel. He said, well, I'm almost there. So he took the chain, and we hooked it up, and I drug him out. And for the people that knew Dave, he had trouble getting home a time or two, and he got pulled out on that road more than once. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point is that's the type of person Dave Wattenberg was. He did what he had to do to make things work. And that's why we're here to remember him today, is because he was that type of person. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. So I met Dave Wattenberg in 1987 when I wandered over from the House and marveled at all the old people in the Senate chamber. It's true. I fit right in. And I got to tell you, the family and friends, hey, Norma, I hadn't seen you earlier. What an honor this is, because Dave Wattenberg was a great man. I really appreciated him. He was a very approachable guy. He was always telling jokes. He's always talking. In those days, we did a lot more socializing. You've heard those stories. And you got to know people pretty well. And he, through that, kind of taught us how to behave. You know, you fight hard on the issues, but you don't fight with one another. And he set a great example. And there were a lot of people, actually, that did that during that time. He's also a member of the Cowboy Caucus. I was in the House, and so I was in the Ag Committee with Danny Williams, Scott McInnes. And the Cowboy Caucus was a pretty influential bunch of people when they got their minds made up and got together. It was hard to take the swing vote away from them. So, again, it's an honor to serve. I'll let the others tell the stories. There are a lot of great stories. I was thinking about this for a couple of weeks, actually. You know, that's exactly what he would want to have happen here. That the stories would come out, the smiles would come on, people would step back and be human and make this place a better place. And so I'm proud to have served with Senator Wattenberg, and I'm glad the family's here and friends, and I'm looking forward to hearing.
Senator Tucktrap. Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Madam President. And colleagues, it's my honor to rise in support of this memorial for Dave Wattenberg. He's a man I got to know very well working in this building for the many years he worked in this building. And all I can say is he was a wonderful man. He had a great spirit. He had a great sense of humor. He had time for everybody. He had time for levity. He had time to get serious. He knew what he was doing, and he was really good at it. He would listen to you no matter who you were and what you had to talk about, and he'd tell you right off if what you were saying made any sense or would ever fly. He was really, as the resolution or the memorial says, he was a consummate statesman. He really cared about the state, and he really cared about the Senate. He loved this Senate, and the Senate loved him. He was just a wonderful guy. I remember when he appeared on the Senate floor dressed as Aunt Mildred. Word spread all through the building, you got to go over to the Senate and see what's going on. And so the gallery started filling up because there was this woman on the Senate floor that no one quite knew who she was. And it was Mildred, and pretty soon, you know, word got around, Dave Wattenberg is in drag on the Senate floor. And it was a sight to behold, but, you know, he always knew exactly, you know, when to use a joke and how long to keep the joke going and when the joke needed to end. And Mildred was here on the Senate floor, and everybody had a good laugh, and then the next thing you know, she was whisked out the side door, only to make one other brief appearance. Dave was, you know, he just had a great sense of humor, and I can just remember so many times you'd be watching through the windows in the back, and you'd see him in here laughing with everybody, and he'd come out in the lobby and he'd plot and scheme and figure out how they were going to kill this darn bill on the Senate floor. Even though Senator Klobuchar used to always say you can't kill rabid dogs on the Senate floor, Dave Wattenberg knew how. He was good at it. He was just a wonderful man and a great friend. And one of the things that I'm really honored in my career here in the Senate is that early on, when I was first running for election after having been appointed to a vacancy, Dave Wattenberg sent me a campaign contribution, and I was so proud of that $25 check. It meant an awful lot to me, and maybe it was more than that, but I'm getting the nod from Mary Sharon, and maybe it was $100. Really made me proud to know that someone that I admired and someone that had worked so long in this Senate and embodied what this Senate stood for in terms of the role that we play in carrying forward the policy and the values of the people of Colorado. Someone like Dave Wattenberg, believed in someone brand new in this role like me. A couple years later, I got a phone call from Dave Wattenberg 2 or 3 times during a session, and it was a tough session, and I was working on something that was really challenging, and Dave would call and tell me, "You're doing the right thing, and that's a good bill, and you keep working." And I'll never forget our friendship and the relationship and the camaraderie that Dave Wattenberg offered to me, and he offered to everyone in this building. He truly was a wonderful senator, a wonderful man. He had a great life, he had a great run, and we all have wonderful memories of him, and I'm very honored to just get to share with you a couple of mine. Thank you very much, Senator Baumgardner and colleagues, for spending this time remembering Dave Wattenberg.
Thank you. Senator Tautrop.
Thank you, Madam President. I met Dave Wattenberg before I was elected. Many of you don't know, but I lobbied down here for the motorcycle rights groups. And we always had a bill that would come up for mandatory helmets, and it would always come to the Senate Transportation Committee. And I do see Senator Weissman was also on that committee, but it never passed. He was just a wonderful person. Then when I was elected, the first 2 years I served in the House was Dave's last 2 years here in the Senate, and got to know him fairly well, although, and you all know how it is between the House and the Senate, you don't have time to really mix with people during session. But after we got done, we would have some liquid spirits, and got to know Dave through that, and I think everybody did. And it's real unfortunate now that the General Assembly doesn't do that, because that's where you really get to know people on a personal level and really know them as a person and not as elected. After Dave was term limited, he did work for 2 years, I believe, 2 or 3 years as a lobbyist for I think it was one of the REAs, and did a very good job lobbying and understand the issue. And he was a wonderful senator, and I'm not going to go any detail because I know that there's a lot of people that served with him that can tell stories. But Madam Senator, if I may have a moment of personal privilege, I do have 2 letters here from former senators who served with him who were not not able to come, and I would like to read them at this time.
Please proceed.
The first one is from Lloyd Casey, and Lloyd Casey, I believe, is listening on the internet, and I hope he's listening. And it says, Dave was one of my very best friends I had during the 4 years I served in the Senate, 1993, 94, 95, and 96. He evidently found it humorous that a guy 66 years old managed to get elected to a public office for the first time in his life. The first week I was there, I went out for lunch, and feeling the need for a drink, I wandered into the Congress lounge and sat at the far end of the bar. The bartender, an elderly, good-natured man, brought me the bourbon and water I ordered. Before I finished it, he brought me another and asked if I would like to meet the man who bought it for me. Absolutely. I was in need of someone to help me feel better about this new experience of being a senator. He showed me to a table where 4 men were sitting. The one who had bought me the drink was Dave. I, of course, recognized him and one of the others. They each welcomed me and asked me how it was going for me. I told them I was overwhelmed and going through a difficult learning curve. Dave assured me that I was going to be able to do a good job. He also suggested I make the Congress Lounge, known as Nick's Place, my daily lunch stop. I became a regular at the table with Dave, and thanks to his help, managed to feel confident being in the Senate. In 1996, he, as chair of the Senate Agricultural Committee, got my industrial hemp bill to the Senate floor, where it also passed thanks to his help. The bill did not make it through the House, but 17 years later, on May 28, 2013, a similar bill was signed into law by Governor Hickenlooper. Dave and Mary Sharon were there to help me celebrate the signing. I have printed the writing he did when he was very sick in 2006. The following will keep Dave in my mind as long as I live. And this is quotes. As I ride down life's road, each and every one of us is going to get throwed. This is the loss of a loved one, parent, child, husband, or wife. It leaves a big void in the middle of your life. Just as you think you're about to go under, a friend reaches out and takes hold of your hand. You will never forget the caring and kindness of that friend. And that was from former Senator Lloyd Casey. And Madam President, I have another one from former Senator Dennis Gallagher, if I may read it.
Please proceed.
He is, unfortunately, Senator Gallagher can't make it. He had a previous commitment. But I was asked by Denver Water to ask for an assignment on the Agricultural Committee. I told them I have no farms in my North Denver area, only a few victory gardens. It's not farms, it's water. The West Slope is trying to get back the water we all stole from them years ago. But I got on, dreading it as Wattenberg always referred to the Denver Water Board as a GD Denver Water Board, and I'm sure those of you that knew Dave, he always did. He thought it was one word, the GD Denver Water Board. I got on the committee and had a great time. Some of my best friends were on the Ag Committee. It was my favorite committee after audit. One Monday, I asked Wattenberg what he did over the weekend. And Dave said, "Dennis, I had to reach in cows and pull the calves out." "How far did your arm go?" I asked. He pointed up to his armpit and said, "Up to here." My admiration for him grew even more that day. When I last saw him in hospice, I told him, "Dave, we senators never tell each other I love you. I am telling you now. I love you, Senator Wattenberg." He smiled and said, "We did great things for Colorado." I think of the words of Juliet, "And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the glary sun. I hope the angels were there to welcome him to paradise." And I want to thank both former Senator Gallagher and former Senator Casey for those wonderful words. And I want to thank Senator, the good senator from Steamboat for bringing this resolution forward. And Mary Sharon, he will be missed. Thank you.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate suspend the rules for the purpose of allowing former members of the Senate and House currently serving as lobbyists onto the floor, in addition to allowing former members of the Senate and House to address the Senate from the well while considering a memorial.
You've heard the motion to suspend the rules for purposes of allowing former members of the House and Senate currently serving as lobbyists onto the floor, in addition to allowing former members of the Senate and House to address the Senate from the well while considering a memorial. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. The Senate will stand in recess for purposes of allowing our honored guests to address the Senate from the well. Congressman Perlmutter.
Thank you, Madam President. Everybody sitting over there considered Dave Wattenberg their best friend. And Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliateds, that's the kind of guy he was. Now, I was one of the few guys that had to look up to him. Most people did not. We would stand in this well. He always wanted to do this because it made him feel big. It would be Jim Rizzuto, me, and Dave Wattenberg. and to see who was the tallest and who was the shortest. I always said I was the tallest, but clearly I was the shortest because he made us come down here every time to do something like that. Serving with him was a wonderful experience. He was truly a friend of all of us. He was a friend of this state. He was a friend of this institution. He made this institution work. So there are a lot of people with a lot of stories. I'm going to enter into the congressional record the following. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the memory of my colleague, neighbor, and above all else, my friend Dave Wattenberg. Dave passed away on Monday, January 20th, 2014, with his wife, Mary Sharon, by his side. Dave and I served together for 6 years in the Colorado State Senate. He was a cowboy whose wit was unmatched, but he was a serious legislator and public servant. During the years Dave's service, he passed over 250 bills. These laws encompassed mining, banking, air quality standards for public lands, and even bringing horse racing back to the state of Colorado. He cared deeply about rural Colorado and his home and the people of northwest Colorado and Jackson County. He understood better than most the issues that affected ranchers and farmers, and he brought those issues to light at the State House. The Colorado Brand Association legislation sponsored by Dave was most important to his love of Western heritage. And to Senator Baumgardner, I'm not sure where you went, he also carried bills dealing with snowplows. He changed the colors of snowplows from the orange flashing lights to red, white, and blue as you would have on a law enforcement vehicle. Dave knew what it took to bring people together, to compromise and strike a deal to make good public policy for the people of the state of Colorado. I was honored to be the beneficiary of Dave and Mary Sharon's help and support over the years. Whenever I talked to Dave, he wanted to know how he could help me. I will always remember the events in his backyard and treasure the times we just sat and talked and joked about our time at the State House as well as about family and politics. I know how much his wife Mary Sharon will miss him. I and so many others will miss him too. That will be entered into the congressional record on Monday when we return. Also, we have some pictures. I have some pictures that I took when Mike and Dave and Ken, a number of us were retiring for the Senate, but apparently this Senate still doesn't have the technology to display pictures, so they'll be shown over in the House of Representatives. So, where apparently they're way ahead of you guys. You know, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, Madam President, thank you for allowing me to speak and honoring my friend and a great public servant and State Senator Dave Wattenberg.
Thank you, Congressman. Senator Don Ament.
Thank you, Madam President. I had the honor of being the butt of most of those jokes that Senator Wattenberg did. I also had the honor about every morning at 5 o'clock, if not earlier, Senator Wattenberg would call up, and everybody in the House knew it was Senator Wattenberg. He was a great human being in the fact that he knew how to put people together, as you've already heard, and I won't make this too long. He was able, through humor, to bring together a lot of groups of people that you would never believe. And so the one you heard that was most important to me was in 1999, Governor Owens had chosen me to be the Commissioner of Agriculture. I started thinking after the whole Owens group said, you know, this will be a breeze for Don. He's chaired the Ag Committee for years. This is nothing going. And then I started seeing flyers around the Capitol building on yellow paper saying, come to the last public hanging, hang him high. It'll cost you so much money. He had commissioned the old Supreme Court chambers, and he had charged every lobbyist or anybody else that would give him any money to attend this hanging. And he'd spent a little time, Mac Terry's back there. Mac built, and I say built because it was really a hangman's noose with the 13, all that stuff anyway. And Senator Klobuchar was the only one that day dressed in a black cowboy hat. He was in charge of the rope. The rest of the Ag Committee was dressed, as you heard, in robes, you know, that they absconded from the Supreme Court. Wattenberg was wearing a white barrister wig. And they started this thing. By the time they called me up, I didn't know whether the front end of a horse got up first or the back end of a cow went down first. I was lucky if I knew my name. And then Wally Steely, my God, Steely was down there testifying. And so here's Steely's comment. Ford, I think, was up there testifying. He says, I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Wally the Body Steely. So this is kind of how this went. And I'm telling you, the governor's office wasn't too nice for me to take my boss off the front page of the paper. The Supreme Court chambers was full. I don't know if they ever got to confirm anybody else that day, but it happened to me. It didn't end there, folks. This guy continued to work forever. Like, can you imagine, we have an insectary in the Department of Ag in Palisade. We breed bugs to kill noxious weeds and all that kind of thing. What do you suppose those people did over there when he walks in one day with a can of Raid? I mean, it was just always something to do. And most recently, he writes in the Jackson Star, he had this thing about April 1st. Every time April 1st rolled around, he had to do something. So the last time, he writes this letter to the editor in the Jackson Star. And it obviously in bold said April 1st. He says, I've worked out a deal with the governor and the Water Conservation Board, Representative Hoppe, to put in place a reservoir over in the North Park area. And he knew that like the back of his hand. And he says, here are the streams and roads that we will impound in water. And he just covers this whole thing. So when people started reading this, they believed every word of it. Well, I didn't think he included me because he said I was part of the program. So, okay, I never thought a word about it until about 6 months later. There were a lot of my old constituents out in northeast Colorado that had cabins and property in North Park. And that newspaper finally got around to them. All of a sudden, and this is only a few months ago, all of a sudden my phone starts ringing and they're saying, hey, what in the world's going on up there? You guys are going to ruin the access to all our properties. Well, I didn't even know what they were talking about until I thought, oh yeah, Senator Wattenberg wrote a letter to the editor, and that was the butt of all of those jokes. So let me say, one of my best friends, never forgetting, Mary Sharon, what a guy, and all of you around there. It's been my pleasure to work and serve with all of you, and it was with our good friend, Senator Dave Wattenberg. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rontek?
Thank you, Madam President. Senators, you know, I'm starting to see a lot of my old friends at events like this, and guys, we got to figure out better ways to meet. I was very fortunate in that I got to serve with Dave his last 2 years in this body. I was fortunate that I came in when term limits had not taken their entire toll on the body. There were a few of the old guard left. And I was able to meet and be mentored by some of these folks. And I have to tell you that the culture of this place has changed dramatically since Senator Wattenberg and his cronies left. There doesn't seem to be the humor here that there used to be. And that's unfortunate. But hearing some of the stories that I heard over the years about Mildred and the birthday cake, and seeing the confirmation for Commissioner Mint and some of the other stories that went on, it was incredible, some of the stuff that went on here. And I will say that in coming years, I'm sure we'll hear stories of other former senators that had their own hand in some of the shenanigans that went on down here. I was fortunate in the last few weeks that Dave was with us. He was in hospice not too far away from where I lived, so I had the opportunity to get by and see him. And about a week before he passed, I was there, I think it was on a Sunday, and Dave was in bed and he was feeling pretty poor. I was talking to him, and I said, is there anything I can do for you? He says, well, yeah, you can get me up. So I helped him out of bed and got him in the wheelchair, unhooked his oxygen, and I'm thinking, this is not going to go well. So we're heading down the hall. I said, you want to go down to the dining room and eat? He said, no, I want to eat. So one of the nurses there said, well, he hasn't eaten yet. He needs to eat. So I took him to the dining room. He wouldn't eat. So I started taking him back to his room, and I says, Dave, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to get out of here. I said, Dave, that won't work. Mary Sharon will kill me. And for about the next 20 minutes, he argued with me about how he wanted me to get out of there. And I said, I'm sorry, Dave. And somebody was walking down the hall, and he says, here's one of my former Senate colleagues, and he won't take me where I want to go. So that was kind of Dave, cantankerous up to the last minute. I was honored to have known Dave. I was honored to have served with Dave for a little while. And the stories that he created here are legend. They will go on, I think, and live in immortality. Thank you for having us all here today and giving the opportunity to talk about a dear old friend.
Thank you. Senator Jack Taylor.
Thank you, Madam President. A little bit of irony that I noticed this morning, and this it goes along with what Senator Tech said about how the way things have changed. We used to try to have a lot of fun down here, and sometimes we succeeded. This morning, the first thing I see is something about hate, wearing sweatshirts with hate on them. Like I say, we tried to have some fun, and what I got the assignment to at least tell part of the story about the Mildred, and that was funny, and it was Dave Wattenberg that set it up. And that was my first term in the House, and I'm still getting to, even though I knew Dave for a number of years, but you don't know him until you see him in this environment, and the sense of humor that he has and had, and the way he used it. But that was his idea, his April Fool's joke, and I walked right square in the middle of it, and I see Bob Shoemaker, former Representative Bob Shoemaker, who came in back in the back, and when I walked in the Capitol that morning about 7 o'clock, Shue was there, and we always called Representative Shoemaker affectionately Shue. So Shue, I'll do that this morning. So Shue sees me and he says, Taylor, you got to come with me and see this constituent of Senator Mintz. And so we started the search of the Capitol. We didn't know where Mildred was at that point in time, but we went to find Mildred. And finally caught up with Mildred. And in the meantime, Shue had, he'd gone hook, line, and sinker on this thing also. And he got the job of those of you who remember, Rosemary Marshall at that point in time was working in the Labor Department. Everybody knew Rosemary, but Shue had cornered her and said, this is Mildred, a constituent of Senator Mintz, and she needs to find the ladies' restroom. Can you help her? So that's the last Shue saw of Mildred till I got on the scene, and we started running around and found Mildred down in the well in the house. And he'd been talking to the ladies behind the desk, some of whom are still there and were there then. And he was just ending that little visit with them. And again, I guess the issue came up, well, Mildred, can we help you? Do you need to go to the bathroom? We can take you to the ladies' room. No, I don't need to go to the bathroom. Because he had the half glasses and beads and the whole thing. And he actually was on the front page of I think the Denver Post the next day. It was one of the two Denver papers. And it was, really covered the center part of the front page of whatever paper it was. But anyhow, he said, no, I don't need to go to the ladies' restroom. So then he started walking up the south steps. And as he came around the corner, we, of course, had spotted him by then. And I didn't know who it was. Frankly, I didn't. It took me probably 30 to 45 seconds to figure it out. As it came around the far corner, the southwest corner, to me at least, over those half glasses, granny glasses, he looked at me in those blue eyes, and that was the first indication. I said, man, those eyes look familiar. He says, are you that young guy that took, are you that young whippersnapper that took Walt Hillman's place? And I looked at him and said, oh my God, that's Wattenberg. No, that was a guy named Dave Wattenberg. And that's who had replaced Walt Hillman, who himself was quite a character, and a lot of stories about him. I won't go there. So anyhow, it didn't end there, as you all know and you've already heard. It came over here, and at this podium, he started speaking about some of the things that, and by the way, Senator Mint and Senator Wattenberg had this little thing going. I'd call it a friendly feud for years and years and years. And it was each one trying to outdo the other one. And as quick as that one was over, Wattenberg was out, or Mint was out trying to get Wattenberg. And I don't know I think he probably, if anybody was keeping score, he probably had the better score, Senator Mint. No question. Anyhow, so a lot more of the fun stuff happened at this mic that morning, which I won't go into, but there were a lot of jokes that just kept happening and going on and on and on. And so this doesn't go on and on. I'll step aside and thank you, Madam President. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ken Klober.
Thank you, Madam President and Senators. If I could just address heaven just a little bit. Madam President, we had a Senate President that Senator Wattenberg served under that was a cowboy's cowboy, Ray Powers, and Ray's gone to glory. So, Ray, I want to tell you, we're sending you Senator Wattenberg because you've had it way too easy up there for too long now. So. You can do your best to put a rope on him. And Senator Anderson, Norma Anderson, wanted me to. She's not going to come down and talk to you today, and that is a miracle in itself. But she wanted me to remind you when she was chair of the Senate Business Affairs and Labor Committee that Senator Wattenberg and I both were on there, and she never was quite sure who was in charge. So, Senator Anderson, there's no doubt you were always in charge. I had the honor to serve here when Mildred sat right over there, and I didn't. I guess it was a couple of days before I found out it was Senator Wattenberg. The next big occasion was when we had the confirmation hearing for Senator Mint, whether to, our choice was, and Mac still got the rope, and Mac brought the rope. We were prepared to hang him. And I always thought that would be a good idea. But that was our choice to either confirm Senator Mint for Ag Boss or we hung him. Senator Wattenberg and I talked about that at length later. We were never certain we made the right choice there. But, yeah, Senator Wattenberg was the cowboy's cowboy. Gun clean, knife sharp, sun in your face, when your back, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, feed your horse and your dog first, never turn your back on a friend. And I think we're all proof of that, but Congressman Perlmutter certainly is proof of that in the public eye when Senator Wattenberg, regardless of party affiliation, said, that's my friend. I'm not gonna back up. Not gonna back up from him now. So I hope you'll. It's privileged to serve here, and it was even a greater privilege to serve with men like Senator Wattenberg. So Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Bill Schroeder.
Members, I got the chance to serve with Dave for 12 years. When I came in 1987, Dave and I sat together back on this side. We had 25 Republicans, 10 Democrats, and it was interesting. But like you've heard about Dave, Dave was a great guy, and we had a lot of fun together. We served on Business Affairs and Labor together. I was a vice chair. And then in time, Dave became the chair, and I was a vice chair for Dave. But lots of stories about that. One of the times that Dave and I were in the Business Affairs and Labor Committee, Senator Claire Traylor, we had a committee meeting going on, and she got really mad. She was the chair of the committee back, I think it was in 1987, and she threw everyone out except for the members of the committee to just threw them out of the committee hearing room. And Ted Strickland was the president of the Senate at that time, and the flack just took off then because Dave and I were just at awe of what Claire had did. But she was just mad at that time, Mountain Bill. And it was a bill before them to start what you might say deregulating the Bell system. But as it goes on, I got a couple quick stories, if I may. Dave would tell me in the Business Affairs Labor Committee, my wife would come down a lot, and she'd sit behind me, and when I would vote wrong, my wife would kick the back of my chair. And so Wattenberg said, Senator Schroeder, he says, before you vote, look behind you. And so I was always very careful, from that point on. Dave and I had a lot of fun in the chambers here. Dave had a lot of fun with the railroads, and we ran bills regarding the railroads, and Dave got me to run one of the amendments to one of the bills because a lobbyist was named Bill Hughes, a former senator down here also, and Dave ran an amendment to every car when they stopped. Every 10th car had to have a bridge car, and that was so the traffic could drive back and forth, And he also, the amendment he got me to run was that there had to be reflector tape on all the cars at least 10 feet high. And so we had a lot of fun with that stuff. I ran a bill, the first bill called Daylight Savings. Some of you might remember that subject. And Dave is a cowboy, and the farmers and ranchers, they didn't like that bill at all. So I'm down here on second reading to present the bill, and all of a sudden the lights go out. The curtains, there were curtains, they got drawn, and it was pitch black in here. I couldn't see the bill, I couldn't see my hands, I couldn't do anything, so I had to lay it over. And so Dave was able to get that done, he got that done. And then the next time I came out here with the sergeants got me about a 10-cell flashlight, a big one, and I was able to run it then. I was ready for Dave that time. Dave also liked poetry. He brought a cowboy poet in here named Baxter Black to talk about the poetry, and he loved that. And he would do a poem out of Baxter Black's many poems about once every year. So he's lots of sides of Dave that we got to know very well, and Dave was truly a mentor to me. Dave helped me understand the cowboy side of things, the rural side of things, how important it was that he knew that as the population changed, that the metro area would grow, and that reapportionment always would change things. But they took us out. Dave ran a golf and an outing up in the northeast part of the state in Craig every year. And that was a lot of fun. And he won that tournament every year, too, let me tell you. He was the only cart that had a racer on his pencil. But anyway, you guys don't get the chance to do that anymore. We get to go and see what was going on in the rural parts of the state, how they were living, what their struggles were. And if you ever get a chance, I would recommend that you do that. He was one of the finest guys. I don't want to say it wasn't bipartisan. I mean, he did what was right for the state, as has been mentioned here several times. Truly a great guy. I'll miss him. Dave and I, as Senator Tech mentioned, I went up to where he was in hospice. He wasn't very far from my own home, and I'd go up and see him. And one time, Dave Wattenberg, myself, and Dottie Wom, who's sitting back here, we got together right outside the cafeteria. And you should have seen the politics being talked there. We were solving every problem you could find, and we had the solutions. And Dave was a contributor to that too. But anyway, I thank you all for the opportunity. He was a great guy, and I miss him very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Paul Weissman.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. I know what you all are thinking. You're thinking there was a guy funnier than Cadman here. He was. Sorry, Mr. Minority Leader. But Dave Wattenberg was great. He was funny as hell. He used to sit in the back over there. I used to sit in the back over here, and he frankly spent a whole lot more time on my side talking to me than I went over talking to him. I think he knew instinctively, or maybe it was learned, to be nice to bartenders. We had a common bond, and I spent a little time with him over at Nick's occasionally to do that. Yeah, I remember one time when I was in the Senate, we were, as Senator Schroeder said, at the time woefully in the minority. And at the time, the majority party got to pick who was on conference committees and everything else. There was a bill that Senator Ment and Senator Wattenberg had on right-of-way fencing that the House changed. And they come over to me and they said they wanted me on a conference committee. I'm going, they want me on a conference committee on right-of-way fencing. I mean, I'm a bartender. I don't know anything about right-of-way fencing. And Wattenberg says, he says, you just vote like we vote and everything will be all right. and I never told you or him this. I did my own research. I'm known to have done that, and you guys were right. I mean, I voted the way you were actually right, and I learned more about right-of-way fencing than you ever need. One of the great things in the world, and it's been talked about a little bit, is that WTG golf tournament they used to have up in Craig. You got to spend some time with folks away from the building, going into the subsidized coal mines, playing on the very nice golf course, and listening about, eating the very fine steaks, listening to all the woes and the hard times that they have up in Northwest Colorado. But it was more than that. It was sitting out in the Holiday Inn lobby till they cut us off, and then after that, going and finding our own out in. I think it was Soash had the RV up there, and finding our own for the rest of the night, and just really getting to know each other. I got the chance to see Senator Wattenberg at hospice before he died, and I went in and nobody was there in the room and he was sleeping, and I just stayed for a while, and you get to thinking about your time down here, and I just started writing him a note, and he wakes up. And he looks over at me, and I said, damn, I didn't want me to be the first thing that you saw when you woke up. I thought maybe you'd be thinking you died and went to hell or something. It's all right. And we had a good laugh and a good talk and spent some really nice time talking about it. Hospice gives you the chance to say everything you want to say while the person is still there. And I was grateful to have had that chance at hospice. I was grateful to have served with Senator Wattenberg.
Senator Norma Anderson. Senator Dottie Wom.
I think by this time that you must all know that Dave Wattenberg was an unusual person. And I think that we all are here because we were so fond of him. I sat back there in the back row beside him for about 13 years, so I got to know him pretty well and to appreciate the kind of person he was. And I know that you serving here, you may not realize that how much it's going to mean to you as you think about it later, how much the people will mean to you. And as you have worked toward a common goal, you bond and you learn what people have a sense of humor and who doesn't. You learn quickly, one time, who will keep commitments and who won't. Dave's commitment was gold. He would stay with you even when it was for Denver Water, and it was pretty far. One of the things that I don't know how much you are debating this year is water. And I have a place in Summit County, and it's full of snow that's going to melt and run down on you. And I wish always when I see a snowpack like that, that we had a high country reservoirs, which we don't have, and we need. But Dave and I both loved the rural Colorado. When I first came to Colorado, it was to Montrose, and I learned to love the Western Slope and the people there who were just so good people and who would allow you into their community to be a big part of it. And for that, and in my work with the federal government, I worked all over the state. And I knew every part of it, and I loved every part of it, which was part of the reason that Dave and I became such good friends. I don't know how many people here now are from the rural part of Colorado. I hope there are some, because it is a necessary part to be represented. And I don't want it to be forgotten. I mean, this is the time you can drive the rural roads and see all the lambs and the calves in rural Colorado. And it's a part that many of you may not know well, and you may not know the problems that they have and the feelings that they have that they're left out. And I think that's so important. And so Dave and I always had all the rural problems solved. We had all the water we needed, and, you know, we could sit back there and solve a lot of problems. He was a special person, I think, because he was so interested in everything. It didn't matter what it was. One year, he carried a bill that is carried every 2 years up here by someone who is not aware that it's carried every 2 years. And it's carried for the grandparents who have, for some reason or other, lost contact with their grandchildren. And they want the legislature to make a law that says they have to be allowed to see their grandchildren. The bill goes down every year, but it comes back. So Dave had it this year, and I had a horse bill. So we had great fun. I persuaded him that he did not want to take that bill to committee, but he did, and it got killed in the first committee. My horse bill, Dave fixed. He had people on every committee that could possibly have that bill sent to, and that bill traveled around here for months before it finally got to the floor. And he never did like it, so I just didn't talk about it after it passed. I talked about it a lot before it didn't. But he was a person you could have as a friend and fight hard if your issues were different. But he was one who would always listen to your issues. He might pay no attention, but he would listen. I used to call him my dumb young brother because he would go off in ways that I didn't think he should go, and he didn't pay a bit of attention to me. It was just like I was a sister, and you didn't pay attention to sisters. But we had great fun together and became very close friends. And after we were out of the legislature, every week or so my phone would ring, and this would say, "And how is Senator Wham this morning?" And until he was unable to do that, I got those calls, and they meant a great deal to me. He meant a great deal to me, as he did to many of you. And I suppose I should tell the story about the rooster, because it was so typical Dave. Every year, does somebody in here put the arm on you to buy livestock at the this one? Okay. Well, that was Dave, and he usually collected quite a bit. And he would collect quite a bit from Steely and some of the others. So he would go to the auction with friends, and they would buy some livestock. So one year, and I don't know if it were April 1 or not, I can't remember, but he said to me, "Does your daughter have a rooster?" Because he knew she loved chickens and had roosters at various times, and I said, "Yeah." He said, "Would she bring it in and let me have it for a morning?" And I said, "Well, I'll ask her." So I asked Mary, and I said, "You know, Tubbs is such a gorgeous rooster. He was one of those, you know, that has the bronze, look, you see those feathers, and he was tall and stately." And so she brought him in, and I said, "Dave, what are we going to do with him while we're in session?" He said, "Oh, we'll put him back in the secretary's office. She won't care." So we put Tubbs back he was still in the carrier. And when it was time for him to go to the house, he had asked permission. We went to the house. I was carrying the rooster and in the carrier, and he was ahead of me. And he goes in the house, goes to the well and says, "You know, I just feel sorry for the house. Here we were in the Senate, and we bought a lamb, and we bought a calf. For those kids we wanted to help, we really bought some livestock. And what did the house do? All they could buy was a rooster, which he handed to Pat Grant, who didn't know what to do with the rooster, and then went on at some length about he hoped next year you could do better. We took the rooster back, put it back in the secretary's office. Well, by then the rooster kind of liked the attention, and so as we started on bills, it started to crow. And it crowed, and it crowed, and it crowed, until I finally had to get somebody to come get the rooster. But that was the kind of thing he enjoyed, just going at people and making them laugh. And I think so often of Dave and of all of us who thought so much of him. And I think about him riding around the trails up yonder, and I hope he stays on the right side of the horse, which he didn't always do. And so I say for him, for me and for you, good night, sweet Prince.
Senator Mike Feely.
Thank you, Madam President. I never was certain I'd ever be back at this podium, but it's appropriate that I'm following Senator Wham, because in my time in the Senate, I spent an awful lot of time following Senator Wham. I just want to tell you that I actually met Dave in the first committee that I ever went to. It was the Business Affairs and Labor Committee. It was a tremendous committee that Dave was chairing at the time. Donna Ment was on the committee, Senator Meiklejohn, Bob Schaefer, tremendous committee. And there was a senator who will go nameless that was presenting a bill. It was from Loveland. A bill, no one understood no one understood the bill at all. And at the end of it, Senator Wattenberg said, well, Senator, what's your pleasure? And the senator said, well, I don't know, whatever you want to do. He said, no, you don't understand, Senator. I think you're out by yourself in a rowboat and you just don't know how deep the water is. And I knew right then and there that I was going to like Senator Wattenberg. I do want to, it's been mentioned before, the Mildred episode is legendary in here, but we did, just like we're doing right now, take a recess and allowed Mildred to speak from this well. She told some great stories, but really, more than anything, wanted to express gratitude to Senator Ament for all the great times they had in the back seat of that Buick years ago. And I just wanted to, Dave was my friend, and he would have been your friend if you had known him, and if you were lucky to, he was your friend. He had such tremendous respect for his friends and his colleagues, and he had no more respect for anyone than he did for Senator Wam. He respected the work that she did here in this chamber, and we will miss Dave. We will miss his sense of humor, and I just wanted to share my thoughts for a moment. Thank you, Dave, for the opportunity to serve with you, and thank you for what you did for the state of Colorado.
Representative Bob Kirsch. Okay. Representative Marlene Fish. Okay. Representative Bob Shoemaker. Okay. Before we come back to order, is there anyone else who wanted to address the Senate? The Senate will come back to order. Senator Baumgartner. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, Madam President, I would like to recognize Dave's wife, Mary Sharon, and son, Guy, if we could welcome them to the chamber. Please stand.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. And at this time, there is a poem that we would like read, if that's possible.
Mr. Majors, would you please read the poem?
This is no lark, I just want to say, so long to my friends in North Park. I left you, but you never left me. I'm just grateful for all I got to see. From the cold winter mornings when your sled pulls like it is on sand, to the green up in spring bringing new life to the land. In the summer when the hay is growing tall and a mantle of gold that you have every fall. To the friends I have known, how those friendships have grown, I'll have no obit. If you just printed the truth, you wouldn't believe half of it. I've had many mentors my whole life through, too numerous to name, but I'll name you just two. It was Brownlee and Furneaux gave me lots of advice. They were hoping that I wouldn't make the same mistake more than twice. I've helped brand cabs from Independence to Arapahoe Peak. I've had lunches at the governor's mansion, of that I'll not speak. Though I'll tell you the truth, the lunches at the brandings are way better when fixed by Marty or Ruth. As you eat your lunch and probably a little dust, you were surrounded by people you knew you could trust. You've all had a friend that you trust with your life, trust with your money, and trust with your wife. But when you say water, I have to think a bit. There is something about it that wants us to borrow it. I've borrowed some water, and probably more than I should, to get it to some dry ground where it would do some good. You sent me to Denver, I met up with the pros. I've been borrowing water with a tiny garden hose. They try to steal more water with a word or a phrase than I ever could with a shovel on the best of my days. As we ride down life's road, each and every one of us, sometime you're gonna get throwed. Not like a horse bucking out there in the brush. When I was a little younger, though, that was a rush. This is the loss of a loved one, parent or child, husband or wife, leaves a big void in the middle of your life. You go around in kind of a fog, feel like you're being pulled down in a bottomless bog. Just as you think you're about to go under the quicksand, a friend reaches out and takes hold of your hand. They pull you out and put you up on dry land, help you up and get you to stand. Then with a trace of a smile, they say, come on, try that next mile. In nature's way, you start to mend, but you never will forget the caring and kindness of that friend. The trail is getting steeper, the eyes they grow dim. I know that I'll make it to the top of that rim. When I look over, it is pitch dark. It is so dark it makes your skin crawl. Way off in the distance, I hear a cow bawl. A glow of light coming over the range. Even in this dim light, the country doesn't look all that strange. Now the sun is up and I'm out of the dark, and the valley before me looks just like North Park. If you read this, hope you don't shed a tear. Just remember our saying, it will be better next year.
Thank you. Members, we have additional guests, incredible guests that have joined us to honor the life and memory of Senator Dave Wattenberg. And if I could at least ask for recognition, the following other members: Senator Lou Entz, if you'd please stand to be recognized, Senator Dick Soash, Senator Marianne Thibodeau, Representative Diane Hoppe, Representative Bob Kirsch, Senator Norma Anderson, Representative Marlene Fish, Representative Bob Shoemaker, and the rest of our guests who are here to speak and are here to recognize Senator Dave Wattenberg. Thank you for joining us in the chambers, and members, please help us welcome them to the chambers. Senator Sally Hopper, we managed to not embarrass you. Thank you for joining us in the chambers this morning. Governor Owens has also joined us, I'm told, by the Minority Leader. Bill Artist, hearing up here. Bill, I didn't see you. Representative Artist, thank you very much. Lost in translation. Jet text me. Thank you, members, for being here. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President, and again, thank everybody for being here. At this time, I'd like to renew my motion, and I move Senate Joint Memorial 14003, ask for a roll call vote and the chimes to be rung.
We will take a roll call vote and ring the chimes in honor of Senator Wattenberg. Mr. Majors, please spell the senators.
Aguilar. Aguilar, aye. Balmer. Balmer, aye. Baumgartner. Baumgartner, aye. Brophy. Brophy, aye. Cadman. Cadman, aye. Crowder. Crowder, aye. Grantham. Grantham, aye. Guzman. Guzman, aye. Harvey. Harvey, aye. Heath. Heath, aye. Herpin. Herpin, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Hodge. Hodge, aye. John. John, aye. Johnston. Johnston, aye. Jones. Jones, aye. Kefalis. Kefalis, aye. Kerr. Kerr, aye. King. King, aye. Lambert. Lambert, aye. Lundberg. Lundberg, aye. Marble. Marble, aye. Newell. Newell, aye. Nicholson. Nicholson, aye. Renfro. Renfro, aye. Rivera. Rivera, aye. Roberts. Roberts, aye. Shuffle. Shuffle, aye. Schwartz. Schwartz, aye. Stedman. Stedman, aye. Doctrop. Wachtrop, aye. Todd, aye. Ulibarri, aye. Zenzinger, aye. Madam President,
Aye.
Madam President, aye.
With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Joint Memorial 3 is adopted. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that the morning roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Any objection? Seeing none, the morning roll call will be added as co-sponsors to Senate Joint Memorial 3, and members, we will stand in a brief recess to greet our guests. The Senate will come back to order. I need Mr. Majority Leader or Assistant Majority Leader. We're proceeding out of order to take up SJR 37. Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we proceed out of order and take up SJR 37 at this time.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We will take up Senate Joint Resolution 37 at this time. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 37? And members, if we could have your attention on this resolution. Mr. Majors.
Senate Joint Resolution 37 by Senators Grantham and Schwartz and Representatives Wilson and Garcia concerning the designation of May 4th through 10th, 2014 as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 37 and would ask that it be read at length.
Thank you. Mr. Majors, would you please read Senate Joint Resolution 37 at length?
Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 4th, 2014 through May 10th, 2014 as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week. And whereas in Colorado, approximately 6,000 highly qualified and experienced employees of the Department of Corrections are charged with serving the citizens of Colorado by holding offenders accountable and engaging them in opportunities to make positive behavioral change and become law-abiding, productive citizens. And whereas Colorado's correctional officers and employees pursue a challenging and noble cause and are responsible for the custody, care, supervision, and reform of approximately 20,000 offenders, as well as the maintenance of safe and secure facilities. And whereas Colorado's correctional officers and employees work in very demanding and stressful conditions, face many challenges, and put their lives at risk every day. And whereas in Colorado, correctional officers and employees serve admirably in many different capacities, including administrators, wardens, teachers, parole officers, chaplains, nurses, supervisors, managers, and directors. And whereas Colorado correctional officers and employees teach, train, mentor, counsel, and treat thousands of offenders every day. And whereas Colorado correctional officers and employees provide the opportunity for offenders to transition successfully from prison to the community, thereby reducing recidivism and enhancing public safety. And whereas the following 16 Department of Corrections correctional officers and employees made the ultimate sacrifice while serving the state of Colorado. In 1899, Officer Thomas Tobin. In 1900, Night Captain William C. Rooney. In 1913, Captain John B. Russell. In 1929, Officer Raymond Brown, Officer John J. Eels, Officer Elmer C. Irwin, Officer Myron H. Goodwin, Officer J.C. McClellan, Officer C. Walter Rinker, Officer Charles G. Shepard, and Officer Robert A. Wiggins. In 1961, Officer Victor B. McMillan. In 1994, Sergeant Mark A. Purse. In 2002, Sergeant Eric J. Ottoby. In 2012, Sergeant Mary K. Richard. And in 2013, Executive Director Tom Clements. And whereas it is fitting and appropriate for the citizens of Colorado to join together in commemorating correctional officers and employees, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their community and state, and in doing so, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for building a safer Colorado for today and tomorrow. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate of the 69th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, the members of the 69th General Assembly, hereby recognize May 4th, 2014 through May 10th, 2014 as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week, to commemorate the exceptional performance of duties under the most difficult circumstances performed by correctional officers and employees, and for their tireless commitment to criminal justice and public safety. Call upon citizens of the state and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe National Correctional Officers and Employees Week, and then remember and honor those correctional officers and employees who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice, and call upon the citizens of Colorado to honor these individuals. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to John Hickenlooper, Governor of Colorado, and Rick Ramish, Executive Director, Colorado Department of Corrections.
Thank you. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, please be seated. Thank you for your attention to this. Today it is our privilege to give honor to those who stand on a wall and protect you and me from the harm that might befall us at the hands of those that they guard. We call them correctional officers. Not only that, but we give honor here today to those who actually gave their all in this service, those who gave their lives in silent service to our great state. We remember through this resolution the many who have fallen, and of course most recently we remember last year, even while we came in here to serve during the last session with the news of the death of Tom Clements. Unfortunately his wife couldn't be here today to observe this, but we remember that time last year, and I have many memories of Tom and working with him on issues down in Canyon City. He was always a person that would He was just very open about many of the issues that came up by the guards, by the officers, by the people that we are honoring here today. We look also at the list of names, and we remember in 2012 Mary Ricard. And I remember where I was at when I got the news. I never knew Mary actually personally, but since that event, I've had the privilege of getting to know much of the family. And many of the family is here with us today, and I'll probably go ahead and have them stand if that's okay, Madam President. If Mary's children, Katie Smith, Jack Benson, and Joe Benson, and of course spouses and grandkids as well, if they would go ahead and stand, and I would appreciate if you would welcome them here today. Thank you, members. Go ahead.
And
Senator Schwartz.
thank you, Madam President. I guess it's been one of the privileges of my term to represent two prisons, and that is the prison in Buena Vista and the prison in Delta. And also serving and on the Capital Development Committee, it has been a privilege to be able to visit virtually every prison in the state of Colorado. Two things that I take away from those experiences has been, one, I will never value my freedom again the way I have valued it after visiting our prisons in the state. But secondly, recognizing the work that's done every single day by these unsung heroes of our state and our workforce that goes to work every day and recognizes the value that they bring to making our state a safer place. And it has been, in meeting those individuals through the course of these tours is always impressive, their level of commitment and their ability to recognize that they are an important and integral piece to our justice in the state of Colorado. So I do want to share in welcoming the family. And it is one of those tragedies that, that these individuals go to work every day recognizing that they might not come home. And we have had the unfortunate circumstances throughout history, but we want to, again, express our very deep gratitude and appreciation for the work that is done by our correctional officers.
Senator Stebbins.
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues. I rise in support of this resolution and also to just say a few nice things to honor the memory of former Executive Director of the Department of Corrections, Tom Clements. He didn't serve that long in his position, but I think he made an indelible mark upon our Department of Corrections and its culture, and I think the new director is continuing forward with some of that work. But the thing I am most struck by when I remember Director Clements is the last time I saw him, just a few days before he was murdered. He appeared at the Joint Budget Committee during our comebacks procedure, where we actually make the departments come back before the committee and advocate for things that we didn't approve in our initial figure setting. And that year, the Department of Corrections had requested additional staffing in all of the kitchen facilities for correctional facilities because of an incident that occurred and a loss of life of a correctional officer at the Arkansas Valley Correctional Facility. And the budget request before the committee included an increase in the FTE to staff additional security personnel in all of the kitchen facilities in our prison system. And members of the Budget Committee had questions about this, and so we made Director Clements come back before us. And he did appear that afternoon and explained how important it was to provide adequate staffing in our prison facilities so that not only the inmates are protected and controlled, but also to ensure that we're providing the correctional officers with a safe working environment. And that was the last time I saw the man. And it always will stick with me that one of the last things he did to interact with the General Assembly and the department's budget process was to advocate for the safety of his workforce. And it's something I will always remember and think about when I am making decisions about the staffing levels and the appropriations to support our Department of Corrections. I'm very grateful that the men and women that work in these facilities do what they do, and I'm very mindful of the risks that they take when they're doing it. And I think we have taken appropriate steps in our budget process to make sure that we are not only, taking care of public safety, but also taking care of the safety of our workforce. And I'm very grateful for you for bringing this resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Stedman, for those remarks. You used the word indelible, talking about the impression that Executive Director Clements left on us and me as well. Just all the times I had those meetings in the basement, or we had those dinners down in Canyon City, he was open to talking about these things, and he will be sorely missed. And I think also of Mary Ricard, and having never met her, but knowing the family, and if the light that emanates from the kids and the grandkids is any reflection upon her, and then she would have been a great person to have known, and I know that they believe that and they know that. This resolution, of course, also remembers Eric Ottoby back in 2002, and of course we honored Eric 3 years ago with the renaming of a portion of the highway on Highway 71 in Lyman. And I was going to share just some thoughts. You remember the list here that we saw in the resolution in 1929. Long ago history for all of us now. But 8 correctional officers died that day in Canyon City, in Old Territorial, during the 1929 prison riot. Interestingly enough, my grandparents and the 4 oldest kids at the time were just babies. They actually lived right across what is now Highway 50, used to be River Street at the time, and then the Arkansas River, and then a row of houses along Riverside Drive, which is basically, if a stone's throw would be from here to the rotunda to Territorial. And my grandfather happened to be out of town that night and that whole day. So there is my grandmother with these 4 babies, and in the meantime, the riot is going on. You can imagine the noise, the yelling, the screaming, the gunfire. At one time, the corrections actually, in order to gain access to part of the facility, tried to actually blow a hole in one of the big stone walls with dynamite. And so you can imagine what is going on around Canyon City and around this facility. There's all this noise and ruckus and literally a dynamite bomb going off, which, by the way, didn't work. It didn't even get through the stone wall. But in the meantime, 8 officers died that night. Needless to say, my grandmother was a little scared that night. I just want to thank the senators for your attention to this resolution. It looks like we have a couple others that want to speak, and I'll save my closing remarks, Madam President, for after they speak.
Senator Rivera.
Thank you, Madam President. As you all know, I was in law enforcement down in Pueblo 34 years. And during those 34 years, a lot of times that we talk about different jobs, and we'd have officers retire to go to work in corrections. And I always said, why do you do that? You know, you're done with the law enforcement and you go off into corrections. And I said, you know what? I have absolutely no desire and no wish to go into corrections. And the reason I said that, because I knew, even though I had 34 years of law enforcement experience, I couldn't do that job. I have ultimate respect for them folks that work behind those cells, behind those walls on a daily basis. Like I say, I just wouldn't be able to, I just couldn't do that, and I couldn't picture myself in there. And I know the Ottoby family, and we've talked several times about the death of Sergeant Ottoby, and it's tough. It definitely is. But all I can say is admirable people that work in corrections God bless them, and Godspeed, and be safe.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Madam President. I was at that joint budget committee that Senator Stedman was talking about. That's the one and only time I ever met Mr. Clements. But he did leave an impression upon me. You know, history tells us shortly after that he was killed. But there's several items that has happened. You know, he made quite an indelible impression on southeastern Colorado at Fort Lyons. It's one of the reasons I fought so hard for that. Because he said when he took that prison down, we need to do something with this place. And it made a mark on me that made me want to fight for that even more so. But, you know, in his memory, I thank him for that. Recently in Canyon City at Old Max, there was a honor to add his name to the wall down there, and it was very well attended. There was probably 200 to 300 people there, and I had the honor to be present when that happened. And it was quite an emotional issue down there, you know, and it went very well. And, you know, the other thing I'd like to say, there's been several people that have asked me, you know, what job within the state of Colorado they could apply for. And I tell them I think one of the best jobs in the state of Colorado is Department of Corrections. I do believe that job has a lot of meaning for the state as well as the people in which they serve. And what they do down there, their industries and whatnot, it makes a very solid impression on the people who work to strive to get onto these programs, and I was very impressed. But I just wanted to say a few things about Mr. Clements. I just met him, like I say, one time, but he did make an impression upon me, and they should be honored daily. So I think for those that do serve, and we need to hold them in a little bit higher esteem. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. And again, thank you, colleagues. You know, it's just a reminder, folks, that, you know, we can walk out of this building or even walk through this building and we see law enforcement everywhere. We see state patrol. We go down the streets here and we see Denver police. We go to our own hometowns and our own counties and we see deputies and sheriffs driving down the street. But how often do you see DOC workers? They almost blend into the background. Not so much in Canyon City. I mean, you walk into the grocery store and they're everywhere. But just all around us, these are the ones that are on that wall, keeping us safe. I would like to close with this. It's called The Forgotten Cop. We are correctional officers, not guards. Those are people that watch school crossings. We work at minimum, medium, and maximum security correctional facilities. We are empowered by the state to enforce its penal laws, rules, and regulations of the Department of Corrections. Our beat is totally inhabited by convicted felons who, by definition, are people who tend to break those laws, rules, and regulations. We are outnumbered by as many as 50 to 1 at various times of our workday, and contrary to popular belief, we work without a sidearm. In short, our necks are on the line every minute of every day. A correctional facility is a very misunderstood environment. The average person has very little knowledge of its workings. Society sends its criminals to correctional facilities, and as time passes, each criminal's crime fades from our memory until the collective prison population becomes a horde of bad people being warehoused away from decent society in a place where they can cause no further harm. There is also the notion that prison inmates cease to be a problem when they are incarcerated. Correctional facilities are full of violence perpetrated by the prison population against the prison population itself and facility staff. Felonies are committed daily but rarely reported. They're called unusual incidents. They rarely result in prosecution. Discipline is handled internally, and as a rule, the public is rarely informed of these crimes. In the course of maintaining order in these facilities, many officers have endured the humiliation of having urine, feces thrown at them. Countless times, correctional officers have been kicked, bitten, stabbed, slashed with homemade weapons, taken hostage, murdered, and in some cases even raped in the line of duty. all while being legally mandated to maintain their professional composure and refraining from any retaliation which could be the basis for dismissal from service. In addition to these obvious dangers, correctional officers face hidden dangers in the form of AIDS, tuberculosis, Hep B, Hep C. Sentences are getting longer, prison populations are increasing, staff gets cut, all in a place where violence reigns, jeopardizing those working behind the walls. Although you will never see us on 911 or Top Cops, we are law enforcement professionals. We are the forgotten cop, hidden from public view, doing a dangerous beat, hoping someday to receive the respect and approval from the public who we silently serve. Author unknown. In closing, Madam President, the family of Mary Ricard asked me to read the following and had a very special meeting for them. This was actually something that Mary read to her husband the night before the incident. The night before she was killed, these words she read to him. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that does so easily trip us up. Let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Also, John 1:5, and I found this to be so appropriate for correctional officers, especially those who have given their lives. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it.
Senator Schwartz.
Thank you. Madam President, I just want to thank Senator Grantham again for bringing not only Mary's memory, though, but memory of so many. So as the General Assembly has the opportunity to evaluate our budgets, please do remember, again, these individuals that really do invisibly serve our state. And when I meet with them in my communities and they're making a living wage, but they really can't afford to be living at a level, I think, that gives them the recognition and the respect that they deserve. Also, as we invest our precious capital, making sure we have those cameras, we have those locks, we have the security, and we have the ability to keep our workforce safe. And lastly, so many of these individuals, the vast majority, are going to be our neighbors and coming back to our communities. So it's only the investment we can make in the quality of our correctional officers and the quality of their experience to rehabilitate and give these individuals a second chance in society. So with that, again, I will ask for an aye vote on the resolution.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, colleagues, thank you, and thank you, Senator Schwartz. I again renew my motion for Senate Joint Resolution 14-037 and ask for a roll call vote, and also request that the chimes ring out in honor of those who have given their lives as employees of the Department of Corrections.
The question is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 37. A roll call vote has been requested. We will ring the chimes in their honor. Mr. Majors, please poll the senators.
Aguilar. Aguilar, aye. Balmer. Balmer, aye. Baumgartner. Baumgartner, aye. Brophy. Brophy, aye. Cadman. Cadman, aye. Crowder. Crowder, aye. Grantham. Grantham, aye. Guzman. Guzman, aye. Harvey. Harvey, aye. Heath. Heath, aye. Herpin. Herpin, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Hodge. Hodge, aye. John. John, aye. Johnston. Johnston, aye. Jones. Jones, aye. Kafalis. Kafalis, aye. Kerr. Kerr, aye. King.
Aye, sir.
King, aye. Lambert. Lambert, aye. Lundberg. Lundberg, aye. Marble. Marble, aye. Newell. Newell, aye. Nicholson. Nicholson, aye. Renfro. Renfro, aye. Rivera. Rivera, aye. Roberts. Roberts, aye. Scheffel. Scheffel, aye. Schwartz. Schwartz, aye. Stedman. Stedman, aye. Talktrop. Talktrop, aye. Todd. Todd, aye. Ulibarri. Ulibarri, aye. Zenzinger. Zenzinger, aye. Madam President.
Aye.
Madam President, aye.
With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 37 is adopted. Senator Schwartz.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask the current morning roll call be added to the resolution.
Any objection? The morning roll call will be added as co-sponsors to Senate Joint Resolution 37. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we proceed out of order for consideration of House amendments to Senate resolutions, specifically Senate Joint Resolution 27.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We'll proceed out of order to take up Senate Joint Resolution 27, House amendments to it at this time. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 27?
Senate Joint Resolution 27 by Senators King and Newell and Representatives Exum and Scott concerning declaring the week of May 11th through 17th, 2014 as Police Week, and in connection therewith declaring May 15, 2014 as Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Senator King.
Thank you, President Carroll. President Carroll, I move that the Senate reject the House amendments to Senate Joint Resolution 27 and that the Senate adhere to its position.
Senator King.
Thank you, President Carroll. Tom Clements was a friend of mine and a friend of people in this room. And if we were going to do this, he would be the one we would do that for. But Tom Clements would not want us to do this. What this does is the House put Tom's name on this Senate Joint Resolution honoring law enforcement officers. And I know what Tom would say. He would say, I'm not a law enforcement officer. I am a corrections officer, and I am proud of that. And I am proud of the people that stand behind me as corrections officers. Honor us in the place that we should be honored at. And that was the resolution that we just passed. There is places for correction officers that are killed in the line of duty to be honored. And that is why, President Carroll, I'm asking that we adhere to our position, and hopefully the House will recede from their position in order to honor these people in the appropriate places that they should be honored at. And I would ask for an aye vote.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, ask for a vote to adhere to the Senate version.
The question is for the Senate to adhere to the original position on Senate Joint Resolution 27. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, the Senate adheres on Senate Joint Resolution 27. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the titles to all the bills on third reading consent?
House Bill 1347 by Representative Corr and Senator Newell concerning statutory established time periods that are multiples of 7 days. House Bill 1344 by Representative Rosenthal and Senator Talktrop concerning the use of electronic means to document transactions related to the business of insurance. House Bill 1266 by Representatives McCann and Gardner, Senators Newell and King, concerning the penalties for certain value-based offenses in connection therewith reducing an appropriation. Senate Bill 194 by Senator Stedman and Representatives May and Giroux, concerning the issuance of identification documents by the Department of Revenue in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 188 by Senator Schwartz and Baumgartner and Representatives Fisher and Rankin, concerning measures to effectuate the conservation of native species in Colorado in connection therewith making appropriations from the Species Conservation Trust Fund for purposes recommended by the Department of Natural Resources. House Bill 1199 by Representative Williams and Senators John and Balmer, concerning changes to regulation of consumer goods service contracts and in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1162 by Representative Landgraf and Senator Carroll, concerning protection of the victim of a sexual assault in cases where a child was conceived as a result of the sexual assault, and in connection therewith making legislative changes in response to the study by and the report of the recommendations from the Task Force on Children Conceived Through Rape. House Bill 1144 by Representative Gardner and Senator Johnston, concerning measures to improve the performance of district attorneys in connection therewith making and reducing appropriations. House Bill 1287 by Representative Young and Senators Nicholson and Lambert, concerning the use of monies in the Public School Capital Construction Assistance Fund to provide emergency financial assistance to public school facilities that are damaged in a declared disaster emergency. House Bill 1335 by Representative Moreno and Senator Jones, concerning campaign contribution limits that are applicable to candidate committees for candidates who are not affiliated with a major political party.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the adoption of all the bills in the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bills 1347, 1344, 1266, Senate Bill 194, 188, House Bills 1199, 1162, 1144, 1287, and House Bill 1335.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Discussion? Senator Marble. Okay. Any no votes on any of the bills on consent calendar? Senator Marble.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to be a no on SB 188 and also on HB 1144.
Okay. Senator Balmer.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to be a no vote on Senate Bill 188 and House Bill 1144.
Question is the adoption of the bills on third reading consent. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1347 is adopted. Co-sponsors. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1344 is adopted. Co-sponsors. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1266 is adopted. Co-sponsors. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 194 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Kafalis. With 33 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 188 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Madam President Pro Tem, Senators Kafalis, Nicholson, Aguilar, Roberts, Jones, Newell, Johnston, with 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1199 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Newell. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1162 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senators Roberts, King, Lambert, Herpin, Aguilar, Nicholson, Madam President Pro Tem, Senators Kafalis, Ulibarri, Newell, Zenzinger, John, Kerr, Toktrop, Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Crowder, Rivera, Johnston, Schwartz, Todd, Baumgartner. With 33 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1144 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Lambert. Senator Herpin. Senator King. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, Senator Schwartz wants to be a co-sponsor on House Bill 1144. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1287 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senators Kafalas, Aguilar, Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Kerr, Herpin, Roberts, Jones, Zenzinger, Newell, Todd, King, Ulibarri, Rivera, John, Stedman. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1335 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Roberts, Senators Lambert, Kafalas, Stedman, Ulibarri. Madam President Pro Tem, Senators Aguilar, Schwartz, Hodge, John, Herpin, Rivera, Kerr, King, Johnston. Senator Todd. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, let me just quick give you an update. We're going to move to recess here in just a minute, and the reason is we've got all the bills that came out of committee this morning, including preparations, to read across the desk. Also, Ledge Council is meeting between 12 and 1:30. So we're going to recess. You all don't need to stay here while we read these things across the desk, but we're going to ask you to return at 1:30, and we will convene with a lengthy afternoon session, as you can see, with third reading and second reading. So with that, Madam President, I move the Senate recess until 1:30 today.
Before we move to recess, members, we're going to read some things across the desk. You are free to go for now. We will be returning with a call of the Senate at 1:30 to clear the balance of the calendar today. So if you would like to go, you are free to go, and we'll do some reading. Message from the House.
April 25th, 2014, Madam President, the House has adopted a return to Senate Joint Memorial 4. The House has adopted a return to Senate Joint Resolution 28. The House has passed on third reading, transfer of the advisory statutes. House Bills 1385 as amended, 1387 as amended, 1376 as amended, 1360 as amended, 1382 as amended, 1380 as amended. The House has passed on third reading, returns herewith Senate Bills 117, 29, 1, 8, and 189. The House has passed on third reading, transfer of the advisory statutes. Senate Bill 150 as amended, and Senate Bill 129 as amended.
Committee reports. Message from the revisor.
April 25th, 2014, we hear the transmitted without comment as amended. House Bills 1360, 1376, 1380, 1382, and 1385 without comment as amended. Senate Bills 129 and 150 with comment as amended. House Bill 1387.
Committee reports.
April 24th, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the merits, committee recommends following Senate Bill 201 be amended as follows and also amended before the Committee on Legislative Counsel with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the merits, committee recommends following House Bill 1368 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 24th, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the merits, committee recommends the following House Bill 1359 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1358 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1357 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1323 be referred to the Committee of the Whole favorable recommendation with a recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1297 be amended as follows and also amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1283 be amended as follows and also amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1276 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1173 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 211 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 180 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 191 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1180 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1178 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1278 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1270 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1333 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1119 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1227 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1101 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1032 be amended as follows, now so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1016 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1009 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1012 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1294 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1350 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1159 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that be placed on the consent calendar. That's like the last, this is the last act to go. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 172 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1300 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1095 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1093 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1356 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 195 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1317 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Merits Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 197 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 203 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1175 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 192 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1326 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1310 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 155 refer to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 190 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1292 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1046 be postponed indefinitely. April 25th, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1298 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 24th, 2014, Madam President, the Committee on Education has had her consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointment. Recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Charter School Institute Board for a term expiring July 1st, 2015, Robert Joseph of Palm Springs, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a parent of a student who is or who has been enrolled in an institute charter school, and as a Republican and occasioned by the resignation of Donahue Cassius Quashie of Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed. April 24, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1202 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 205 be referred to Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 24, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1085 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1118 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1124 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. April 24, 2014, Committee on Education. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1102 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 25, 2014, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's, the Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 200 be postponed indefinitely.
Signing of bills.
April 24, 2014, the President signed House Bills 1193, 1203, 1302, and 1342.
Mr. Majority Leader.
The right way. Thank you, Madam President. Let me just announce that Senate Bill 201 will be heard in Ledge Council meeting, which starts at 12 o'clock today in 15 minutes. With that, I move the Senate recess until 1:30 p.m. today.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Senate will recess until 1:30 p.m.